This is a game where going in blind is the best way to play, and this review will show off some more specific sections, so if you're interested in it at all, I recommend playing the game first.
When the police won't help you and the priests don't believe you, you call on Paul Prospero. You call on me. If you're a kid like Ethan...
Hello there everybody! The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a first-person mystery game that follows the story of a paranormal detective known as Paul Prospero hunting for a missing boy, Ethan, in the mysterious abandoned town of Red Creek Valley. Essentially, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a game of atmosphere. The visuals are absolutely gorgeous, featuring some of the most beautiful vistas I've seen in gaming. Man-made structures are also incredibly detailed and photorealistic. Environments are colourful at times, but still carry with them an intense sense of foreboding. Paranormal events are also jaw-dropping at times, with some seriously impressive visual effects. The game makes nice use of environmental storytelling, even going so far as tying them into the core puzzle mechanics. Something quite fascinating about this game, and one of the reasons it looks so damn good, is due to how the visuals are created. A process known as photogrammetry is used, which in layman's terms, produces a three-dimensional photo scan of a massive images taken from all angles of an object or a scene, and creates a digital copy which can be placed into the game. This allows for intensely detailed depictions of objects and other assets, and looks absolutely incredible. I'd love to see more photogrammetry used in the future. The sound design is also worth mentioning. Effects carry an eerie tone and the music is mysterious and enchanting. Voice acting on the whole is well done, and the protagonist's narration is kept to a minimum, which I think works in the game's favour. Gameplay involves wandering around Red Creek Valley and the surrounding countryside, attempting to piece together what happened there. Occasionally, special events will take place, and these are clear highlights of the game. The game has a similar feel to games such as Gone Home and Dear Esther, as there's no tangible in-game threat, and the focus is placed on storytelling and atmosphere. However, unlike those games, there are more actual puzzles, in the form of solving murders using Prospero's paranormal powers, along with some basic environmental manipulation ones. Essentially, finding objects in the environment assists Prospero in solving these murders. All objects in an area must be found in order to initiate events and interact with certain objects, so exploration becomes key. There are also surreal murder-solving scenes where the player must piece together the fractured events of each crime in the correct order. This then plays a cutscene of the scene running through. Most of these puzzles were alright, and it was a definite change of pace from the walking around, but they weren't terribly interesting and don't actually serve much purpose narratively, as they get played in their entirety as a cutscene after being solved anyway. Unfortunately, this murder-solving gameplay does feel slightly unpolished. I missed several potential events early on because I didn't understand Prospero's powers and the mystery-solving mechanic in general. Essentially, you have to interact with every single object of each mystery in order to be able to interact with the victim's corpse and thusly solve the murder. Early on, I found aspects of murders, but disregarded them as they gave me nothing to work with besides a short line spoken by Prospero. Nothing in the game made it seem like they were for a puzzle instead of just environmental storytelling. Items are often completely hidden from view, which are necessary to activate the murder-solving interaction, but the new player doesn't know that the game requires every item to initiate each event. The game itself states that it will not hold your hand, but there's a difference between having to discover things on one's own and locating a tiny rock with no visual indication of its presence in order to solve a murder. Especially when all the valuable information, the stuff the player themselves can piece the event together with, has already been uncovered by the player. I'll give an example of what I mean. Right at the beginning of the game, there are a number of traps spread out through the forest in the first area. Most likely you'll get a fright when the first trap activates. Of course, from that point on, you decide to avoid the traps. However, it came to my attention later that there is a special event which takes place if you interact with each of these traps, one of which is hidden separately from the others, and then after having interacted with them all, you have to interact with a specific trap again for the event to take place. It's not really not holding your hand so much as making scripted events senselessly obtuse. But then again, this could all be intentional and all be part of the mystery. I definitely understand the appeal of very methodical exploration, I just feel that this execution detracts from the experience as a whole. It was only when I approached the conclusion of the storyline that I realised the amount of content that I'd missed out on early on in the game. so of the time I spent playing, the majority of the second half was spent backtracking. I'd like to briefly discuss the game's ending now, so if you'd like to skip over this section, I'll leave an annotation on the screen. To some, the ending may seem at first to be something of a cop-out. I interpreted the conclusion at first to be the typical "it was all a dream" trope. Essentially, the world the player travelled through was all a fictional one, created in the mind of Ethan while he suffocates in a house fire. The brutal murders that take place throughout the game all seem to be interpretations of Ethan's view of unsupportive family members.
Painting on walls, writing his stories. I mean, what the fuck?
Ethan! For God's sake, you missed dinner.
I'm sorry.
The supernatural aspects also tie into books which Ethan enjoyed to read as a form of escapism from his unpleasant normal life. So even if the story is interpreted as "it was all a dream," it is at least an interesting take on that. This ties in with the evil controlling entity being known as the Sleeper, as it is Ethan sleeping as he slowly loses consciousness. However, the plot doesn't all seem to tie in with this interpretation. There is a lot of subtlety to what takes place in the game, and it seems silly to neglect the bulk of the game due to the shock twist right at the end. Essentially, the twist ending doesn't necessarily invalidate the rest of the plot. The game is more than just its ending, basically, and there is plenty to interpret for oneself. I actually came across a fantastic blog post made by the developers on their website, explaining their thoughts on the game's ending. I'll leave a link in the description, but I'll sum their article up with a quote. "There is an ending to the Vanishing of Ethan Carter, but it's your ending, not ours." Ultimately, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a game with a terrific sense of tone. That's the key thing that needs to be stressed. Despite its several faults, it is very worth experiencing. Uncovering the mysteries of Red Creek Valley is immensely compelling, and the environments are beautiful and richly packed with detail, in part due to the incredible photogrammetry technology. The story carries the game well and suits the tone set by the other aspects of the game. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a fascinating journey that is far from perfect, but is an impressive achievement in many ways. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. Feel free to like, comment or subscribe if you want to see more.